We're here again. We're here again. Those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Alami Bashir, aka Mom Alami, and I am your transformational life coach. And this is Be Great Every Day. I, for the last week, have been contemplating what I wanted to talk about today, and I've been getting confirmation over the last couple of days as to the topic. And before I get into the thick of it, this one was kind of tough for me. And it was tough. Today's topic was a little bit tough because it took me back to a time in my life that was really difficult. And it required me to go back and live through some of that trauma and drama in order to really be able to adequately capture my thoughts for the day. And I'll tell you why. Contrary to what people believe to be true now, is I used to be really insecure when I was a kid. Like really insecure. Like I grew up in the 80s, basically. I'm a 70s baby. I grew up in the 80s. So my formative and adolescent years were during the 80s, the mid to late 80s in particular. And, I'm a brown-skinned girl. During that time, in my early adolescence, I was even darker than I am now because I spent a lot of time, particularly in the summertime, I spent a lot of time in the sun and in the pool. And, the brown skin that you see now, I was probably like 3 or 4 shades darker. Like I literally would turn purple. I get so dark in the summers. So I was extremely dark skinned. This was before I got braces because of my teeth. Although straight now, we're a little buck tooth. Not a little, a lot, because I used to suck my fingers as a kid. That's a whole other story. But dark skin, really skinny. I was really, really skinny as a child. Buck teeth. And while I'm bald now, I have absolutely some 4C hair. And for all of my naturalistas, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, my hair is like the fist on the Afro pig. My hair in its natural state is extremely coily, extremely brittle, and very difficult to manage, particularly as a young child. So growing up in the 80s, for those of you who are along for that ride or old enough to remember those days, brown skin girls were not the lick. That's a 2020 thing now, right? In that brown skin girls are getting adequate respect and love and appreciation for that brown skin. But during the time that I grew up, light skinned was preferred. As we talk about colorism these days, like colorism was a real thing back in that time. I envied the light skinned girls with the long hair and the curly hair, the wavy hair, the light eyes, the more European features. That was the perceived standard of beauty culturally and in my own mind during that time. So needless to say, I never felt attractive. And even beyond my looks, that time in my life, I just didn't feel that I had much value. I didn't know what my unique talents and gifts were at that time. I did not have a lot of real ambition. There's a lot of kids during that age. I was just kind of existing in this world, in my own world, where I didn't accept myself and I didn't feel accepted by other people. And let me add insult to injury, is I had a really complicated name, Alami. I was teased a lot. I was called Alami Salami, bologna. Kids had a field day with my name. And I'm really grateful that I can like laugh about it now. It's like hysterical now. But during that time, it hurt. And not just a little, it hurt a lot because I already didn't feel good about myself. So, in talking about this podcast today and thinking about the topic for the day, and identifying this problem of insecurity and a lack of confidence, I know that I'm not the only person that has either that exact story, a similar story, or a current present experience that mirrors elements in that story. For me personally, what helped me at that time was as I continued to mature and grow, I got into athletics. And so therefore my height, because that was another factor on top of this, tall, skinny, dark-skinned, nappy-head, buck-toothed girl, found sports. And so then it gave me a purpose. It gave me a way to realize myself in a new way. I discovered I had a talent that I didn't know I had. And in the development and cultivation of that talent, I started to build confidence. Another thing that helped me was I took some modeling classes. And this was a little bit later into this is more like my early adulthood. I was in college. I was probably about 18, 19. And I had started to take, at a whim of my sister's suggestion, I got involved with a modeling agency, ended up taking some modeling classes. And through that experience, I learned how to do my makeup. Of course, they have you learning the catwalk, which immediately has you modifying your posture, your body language, and recognizing your physical influence in a space in a new way. Those were things that helped me to build confidence. And then all of that coupled together with just me deciding that I didn't want to feel bad anymore, that I wanted to feel good, that I wanted to feel good about myself. All of those things combined led me to build confidence. It allowed me to build confidence. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is to those of you who struggle with confidence in certain aspects of your life, or maybe just in general. If you are struggling with confidence, today is a good day to listen to this show. Absolutely. Because a lot of people struggle. A lot of people struggle and they may or may not talk about it with other people, but it's definitely at the forefront of their experience, right? When we have a lack of confidence, it literally compromises our ability to live, work, and play at the level of our very best. It stifles us. It limits us. It holds us back from the things that matter most to us. It holds us back from realizing the fullness of who we are. If I can be even more specific, I know there are people listening right now that struggle with confidence, and it's keeping you back from your most important goals. It's held you back from seizing certain opportunities or pursuing certain opportunities. It's stifled you in certain relationships because you weren't confident enough to be your full self in that union, to speak your mind, to command your own respect. I know there are some of you who are constantly living in fear, doubt, worry, and a sense of insecurity as you navigate your outer world. And it's stifling you. It's crippling you. It's not allowing you to realize your inner potential. So we're going to talk about it today. And I'm going to share some tips, tools, and strategies that help me, and we'll see if they help you. But before we jump into the thick of that, I want to get clear that we have a unified definition as exactly what confidence is, because it's kind of a loaded word that people perceive it to be one thing sometimes, but it may or may not be. There's a line between confidence and arrogance. There's a line between being secure with yourself and even being humble. And I'll talk about what I mean by that in just a bit. But what I mean by confidence, give you a dictionary definition. Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance, arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities and qualities. I'll repeat it. Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's abilities and qualities, right? So confidence literally means you appreciate yourself, that you recognize your own qualities and abilities and you see value in them. Confidence is this self-reinforcing mechanism in which we validate our own self, not others evaluating us, but when we evaluate our own self, we assure our own self. Of course, there's a lot of factors that go into that. How do you build confidence, right? How is confidence built? What are some of the factors that influence confidence and the extent to which we feel it? Well, as again, the key word being self-assurance, that confidence is one of those things that is first cultivated inside of ourselves. It's influenced by outside factors, of course. And here's some of them. Well, your childhood or your upbringing. The way in which we're raised, the people who raise us, the way in which they pour into us, they validate us, acknowledge us, honor us, praise us, the way in which we are nurtured as a child and as we grow into adulthood plays a role into how confident we may feel. For those of you who have maybe experienced trauma, abuse, emotional abuse, disrespect by the folks who are supposed to love you the most, that changes us. That shapes the way in which we see ourselves, whether we recognize it, of course, as children or not. It's only until we get older that we can then look at it differently and see how those influences play a role into how we identify ourselves. This idea of, again, your childhood, your upbringing, our life experiences, all of these things influence our self-perception. So our self-perception, our self-esteem is cultivated by factors that are really out of our control as we're growing up, right? We don't pick our parents or our siblings. We don't get to pick the people in our community. We're living life by default and just trying to navigate it as best we can. And if we end up in toxic or unhealthy situations or dynamics, it stays with us unless we do the work to move beyond it. But it does stay with us and it shapes our sense of self in ways that we may have to self-correct as adults. Other influences, let's take it more currently, social media. A lot of people are looking at social media as reality. Sure, there's some aspects of reality, but a lot of people look at others on social media and they contrast and compare their life experiences. They feel jealous or insecure because they don't have what they see that other person has, or they haven't achieved those milestones that other person has already met. All of those things chip away at us subconsciously and sometimes consciously. Other influences. Religious beliefs. As a child, my parents belonged to the Nation of Islam, and I was raised in a Muslim environment. I was raised I went to a Muslim school. We wore uniforms. We wore full head covering and garb all the way down to our ankles because we were supposed to be modest, I, as a child, and even as an adult, am still not even duly aware of culturally what that particular religion expects of women. Like I see it, of course, it's a physical modesty, but it's also kind of a mental and emotional modesty that's expected. You know, don't be too boastful, right? Don't get too big for your britches, as the old school folks used to say. So sometimes for some of us, it's a religious thing. People tell you need to be more humble or be humble. Well, listen, I got news for you. Today's the day I dispel that notion. If you're one that wants to build confidence, humble and humility is not the way. I know. Am I telling you to go out into the world and be the biggest asshole you can be? No. I'm giving you permission to be yourself, to be your very best self, to acknowledge that you are being your very best self, and to do it without apology. If I were to give you a formal definition for the word humble, you'd be surprised to hear it. I'm going to give it to you. To be humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Again, humble. Having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Do you see the contradiction? If you're going to have a low estimate of your own importance, that could very easily be counterproductive to you feeling and being your best self. Okay? Is it important to be humble in certain instances? Absolutely. Confidence is not about saying, I am better than so-and-so. It's about being your best self. And some of us actually need to give ourselves permission to do that, because we get so many influences telling us to not be. Subconsciously, we get these messages that say, don't get too proud. Don't think you're too good. We get those messages and we interpret them to mean that the more I minimize myself, the more value I'm adding to an equation. That's not what I believe. I do believe in confidence and being confident. I do believe that there is a work that is required to keep that from becoming arrogance. Arrogance is when you think you are better than somebody else because of who you are. That, in my opinion, is unacceptable. That is degrading and dehumanizing to other people. And so therefore, you're not really confident. When we talk about confidence, it's a comparison to no one else. It's you. It's you being your best you. You recognizing that you are one of one and being number one at that. It's a difference. So I don't want to get too far off on that, but I thought it was important to share it because we get these messages about being humble. And then we don't recognize how counterintuitive it is to us really feeling good about ourselves. Like there is a lane for just that doesn't include anybody else or an evaluation or assessment of anybody else in comparison. Other factors that influence our level of confidence is it depends on the situation or the context, right? Some of us feel confident in many aspects of our lives. Maybe when we're at work or when we're parenting our children. But then when we go out in social settings and in more casual environments with people that we don't know, we don't feel that confident then, right? Some of us let fear and worry and anxiety consume us in certain situations. And then in other situations, it's like, oh, no big deal, right? The more angst and emotional insecurity we feel, the less confident we feel. So if you're in situations that create angst and make you feel emotionally insecure, you're not going to feel confident. But again, that may vary from situation to situation, context to context. Other variables, preparation, right? We're talking about your ability to feel confident, or excuse me, your ability to feel confident. Yeah, I said it right. When we're talking about your ability to feel confident in different situations, oftentimes preparation is a key element, right? Particularly when we're talking about performance. The more you've studied for something, the better prepared you're going to feel to take the test. The more you've researched a company before you go to the job interview, the more confident you will feel in discussing what they're about. The more preparation you do for a team meeting, the more confident you will feel to execute when you're at work. It's about preparation. And if I can take it to like a social situation, preparation is key in social situations. If I, without any makeup, just throw on a hat and some sweats and run out to the store, and then I see a really attractive guy, I'm probably not going to feel as confident as I would if I were made up in some version of what you see now, right? Or if I am, if, I don't know, what else? I'm trying to think of another situation. If I didn't brush my teeth and now I need to have a face-to-face conversation with somebody, I'm not going to feel as confident as I would otherwise, right? So again, it varies from situation to situation. It varies depending on our level of preparation. And it's easy to feel confident in one aspect of life and not in another. Last but not least, and this is not an inclusive list, but this is just what I find to be the key factors or key influences in how people develop confidence or the extent to which they feel it, okay? Key elements or factors that determine how confident we can feel or we do feel. Our perceptions. This one is huge. I talked about self-perception, right? And I don't think I touched on body image. That's another thing. Like, we don't feel confident in ourselves because we don't like the way we look. We don't feel positive about our body image. But even beyond that, perceptions that we feel other people have about us, or projections, that's a better word for it. Our projection of our beliefs on other people keeps us feeling insecure, right? For those of you who have social anxiety, that's the big thing about it. You don't feel comfortable when you go out in the world and have to talk to people or interact with people that you don't know because you think that they are thinking something about you. I know I'm talking to somebody. This is what used to happen for me. I don't know that no one found me unattractive or that anyone found me unattractive as a child. I assume that. I assume that no one saw my value physically. I assume that. And many of you assume that. You assume that when you come up against people that you know and don't know, right? Even people that you know, we project our thoughts onto them, and they mirror it back to us because we're only looking at it through that lens. Many of us just care too much about what people think to begin with, and then we complicate that by projecting a negative image back onto ourselves. It's really crazy making if you stop to think about it. Many of us have a fear of social rejection. A fear of social rejection. And again, it's all deeply rooted in this idea of comparison. We think they're going to think something about us because we are evaluating ourselves based on some objective rubric that has nothing to do with us. We're looking at their life. We're looking at how they act, and thinking, well, they look like they're fine, but I'm not. And they know I'm not, right? So projections of other people that we accept to be truth for ourselves is a big reason why people struggle with confidence. A big reason. And like I said, I know so many of you are struggling with this. I don't know if you're talking about it with anybody. I don't know how much, particularly men, right? Women, we tend to be more open and casual about conversation, particularly things that we're struggling with. But men, there's this whole alpha male perception that says that you can't show weakness or vulnerability. You can't show any chinks in the armor. You can't show your humanness. You can't show when you feel not safe or secure. But so many of you do. So many of you are moving through your lives pretending and posturing as if you're confident, but really you're not. Really, you're scared and afraid and hoping you don't get found out, exposed, right? Many of us are feeling highly vulnerable, highly insecure, and highly unstable in our sense of self. Of course, I could spend a long time talking about why people aren't confident. I know if I talk to each of you individually, everybody's got their own story, probably many with the same themes, but everybody's got a unique equation that has made them them, that makes you you, and that has compromised your sense of self. So I won't talk about that. And I'm not going to talk about just kind of textbook cookie cutter ways to build confidence. What I will talk about and highlight in this episode is some of the things that confident people do differently. And as I talk about them, I want you to reflect back on how you move through the world, or even how you move mentally inside yourself, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs about yourself. And I just want you to see how you're moving aligns with how confident people move. So I'm going to talk about 7 things confident people do differently. Number 1, they define themselves. Confident people define themselves. They know who they are. They know what they're about. They can identify their strengths and weaknesses, their ambitions, their motivations, their desires and preferences. They know who they are, their shortcomings, their deal breakers. They set their own internal standard of excellence. They are looking at themselves against not somebody else's rubric or the lens of which they see somebody else's life. They are looking at their own rubric, their own vision of themselves to evaluate themselves. I'll say that again. Confident people look at their own evaluation, their own standard of excellence to evaluate themselves. We create our own rubric. I've created mine. I have a vision of what it means to be confident in my life. I know what it looks like for me. There was a time I didn't. And I took the time to start to visualize myself and what I perceive my confident self should look like. And little by little, bit by bit, I started to encompass it and I started to become it. And now I live it. You can too. But it does start with having a vision for yourself. What is your own standard of excellence? Who are you? What are you about? What do you want out of life? What are your goals? So getting clear about who you are and who you want to be is so essential to building confidence. Get clear about who you are and who you want to be. Number 2, confident people move differently, like physically move differently. And you all know that. I know if I were to ask you, if we were standing at one point at a race and looking down up ahead at hundreds of people just walking by up ahead, and I asked you to identify who do you think is confident, you would have some assumptions as to who you perceive to be confident based on how they are moving, how people walk, how is their posture, the nonverbal ways in which we communicate. Posture is so huge when it comes to building confidence. You can tell when someone feels really insecure. And you know what you look at first? Well, 2 things. Me, I look at the shoulders first. If someone is slumped down, kind of like rolling their shoulders forward, their spine is curved, their neck is dropped, then I know they're not that confident. But when I see someone who's a little bit more upright, and their head is up, their chin is up, and most importantly, their eyes are making eye contact, right? That's a dead giveaway. When people don't make eye contact with you, you know it's because they feel uncomfortable. If you don't make eye contact with other people on a regular basis, that becomes your new challenge, right? Your new opportunity to self-correct, to show up in the world as more confident. So posture, eye contact, walk, even your resting position, as I just modeled, again, the rolled shoulders forward, the slump back, all of those things speak who you are before you even open your mouth, right? So start by identifying those little ways in which you show that you're not confident. How does your body language reflect the level of confidence that you want to have? And start showing up in the world with that. So if this is your natural go-to, self-correct. I'll tell you, a dead giveaway for folks. For those of you on social media, go back and start looking at your own pictures. Look at your pictures. Even look at the pictures of other people. And look at how the head and the chin is placed. Is the chin down and they're looking this way? A lot of people who struggle with confidence lower that chin subconsciously and they're looking up. And that literally speaks, I don't feel like I have the space, or I don't have the confidence to be upright, to command this space that I occupy. I have a lot of people who make comments about me when I move into place. Actually, someone just did it just yesterday. Someone just did this yesterday and said that I command attention when I walk in a room. And I found that to be so interesting because I know it to be true now, but I'm the same person that I've always been, even when I was younger. And while at that time I felt so not confident, not secure in myself, I can see the difference in how I enter a room now. And now, because I have confidence, I command my space. And by command it, I'm not bullying anybody out of theirs. I just own the space that I'm in. So you see my head up. You see my shoulders back. And by the way, when I say shoulders back, I don't want you all now to go home or get off of this podcast and then be walking around like a robot with your shoulders up like this, thinking this is how you show you're confident. Because you see what happened when I did that? Immediately my chin went up. And subtleties in body language say so much. We don't want the chin up because now it's like I'm boasting and I'm arrogant and I am better than everybody because I'm looking down on them. Mm-mm. When I talk about self-correcting your posture, your sternum is that space in between where your left rib cage and your right rib cage meet. At the top there, that little V at the top, right underneath your bra strap, ladies, or right underneath your breastplate, gentlemen. That sternum is what you want to lift up. Not throw your shoulders back, just lift that sternum. And when you lift your sternum, it's going to self-correct your spine. All of the rest of your limbs and digits are going to fall in alignment casually, and it's going to look more natural. So lifting the sternum is how you self-correct that posture. Don't ever throw your shoulders back unless you are acting or intentionally doing that for some other effect, because that is not a natural posture for people. But to lift your sternum, absolutely is. And if you notice, my shoulders didn't even go up. So I offer you that. But again, confident people move differently. So if you want to build confidence in your life and gain confidence in different areas and aspects, particularly in your physicality, start presenting yourself in the world as the person that you know you are or want to be. Okay? So walk your talk. Okay. Now, number 3, things that confident people do different. Number 3, they talk differently. They talk differently to other people. They talk differently to themselves. When folks are speaking with confidence, they are clear, they are direct, they're not fumbling over their words. There's not a lot of ums and maybes and might. You see my facial expressions? Confident people are clear and direct, just as direct as I'm looking into this camera, making eye contact with whoever is watching via YouTube. And if you can't see me because you're listening to the audio, that's okay. Just know that I am delivering a clear message. When people speak with confidence, they're assertive. Okay? They convey truth and honesty when they speak, and they do it without apologizing. Truth and honesty does not equal insults, people. It means clarity of message, authenticity in the message, a genuineness in the message. When folks are assertive, they speak in clear language, clear terms, and they set clear boundaries. Assertiveness. If you are not a confident person, I highly suggest, well, I'll give you more info on how you can work with me, but I highly suggest that you start focusing on some assertiveness training. Because a lot of people that I've discovered who feel insecure and who don't feel confident, they really struggle with that piece. They're really not sure of themselves and they don't know how to articulate their own power. And that's what assertiveness is. It's not about bullying people with your language. There's a need for tact and respect, social etiquette in everything that we do. As a confident person, though, it is important that you learned how to use powerful language. And for some of you, you're so used to apologizing for yourself, apologizing for being yourself. You're so used to taking away your own permission to be authentic that you have to almost relearn how to do it. You have to learn how to speak with authority. You have to learn how to hold your own space and be clear about what you're saying, mean what you say, and say what you mean. And I know a lot of folks who struggle with confidence. I call it being the nice bad guy. I was just working with a client on this a couple of days ago. She's a leader in her organization, and she struggles with assertiveness. And I'm teaching her how to be a nice bad guy, meaning to be clear and direct and succinct in what you say, but to do it in a way that is user-friendly, that is empathetic to the listener or the audience, and that respects the listener and the audience, but still articulates your genuine message. So I'll talk more again about how to work with me if that's something you might be interested in, but just know that confident people talk differently, they walk differently, and they know who they are. Number 4, confident people use language to empower themselves. I could spend all day on this, and I'll spend all of my podcasts in future episodes talking about this same concept, because language is so powerful, especially when it comes to shaping and molding our self-identity and our perceptions of the world around us. Language is our most powerful tool. People who are confident, they talk differently to themselves. They challenge their inner critic. Do you even know what your inner critic is saying? I believe that all of us have 3 voices constantly operating in our head. We have our encouraging voice, or what I call our yes voice. We have our discouraging voice, or the no voice. That would be their inner critic too. And then we have a part of us that's just kind of null and neutral. So we have the yes voice and the no voice. And the no voice is our inner critic. That's the part of us that is negatively evaluating ourselves, our decisions, negatively evaluating our qualities and our abilities, our competencies, that negative self-talk, that self-talker. That negative self-talker is who your inner critic is. Confident people can identify those 3 voices. And most particularly, we can identify that inner critic, and we learn to silence it. So many of you who feel insecure, it's because your inner critic is running the show in your mind. Hands down, running the show. And it is not unless and until you get a hold of that, at least in terms of understanding that that's what's happening, in terms of understanding and recognizing what are the messages that that inner critic is repeating or convincing you of yourself. It's all judgmental. It's all criticism. But are you aware of exactly what the messages are? Or are you just naturally responding? The I'm ugly was mine. I'm unattractive. I'm undesirable. I don't have any unique talents. I don't belong here. That was my inner critic. And by the way, just because I'm confident now doesn't mean that the inner critic goes away. Again, confident people can identify that voice, and then they look to silence it. How do they silence it? By reframing all of that negative language to either neutralize it so that it's not so harsh and self-critical. It's not, oh, I suck. It's, oh, I'm not so bad. Or, oh, I'm working to get better, right? Confident folks practice non-judgment, particularly in their self-talk. And I'm going to tell you, when you start practicing non-judgment of yourself, it will easily spew out into the world toward others. You become less judgmental of other people. I know you know somebody, we all know somebody that was a bully, right? Hurt people. People who feel a lack of confidence of themselves judge other people because they don't feel confident. When you're confident, you're not worried about other people. You don't even know what's going on inside the minds of other people, nor do you care to. You're only concerned about being your best in every situation and context possible. So it's super important that we all learn to identify our inner critic, start to silence that voice, and by using positive reinforcing words that either neutralize it or, like I said, take it all the way positive. So it goes from I suck to I'm doing a lot better job. Might be the same thing, just language in a different way. Using language that gives you more power, that validates you more. It doesn't discredit you and doesn't judge yourself. So using positively reinforcing language. Another way to look at that is affirmations. People talk about affirmations all the time. I could do a whole episode on affirmations. I have some personal gripes against affirmations because I think that people carelessly create them. In my opinion, affirmations are best served when it's a statement that is just outside your comfort zone. So again, it's talking about small shifts in your perception at a time. So you can't go from I suck to I am so powerful. Because you're not going to believe it. Not right away. So it can go from I suck to I recognize I have power. Or I'm not walking in my power yet. I love the word yet. Yet always leaves space, room, and opportunity for growth. So it's where I am now, but I am going to this other place soon, or I just haven't arrived there yet. So it's not, I'm so super insecure. It's, I'm building confidence. I'm learning how to build confidence, right? So be positive in your language. Create affirmations. I'm a fan of affirmations, but be really strategic and honest with yourself that you are not telling yourself statements you genuinely don't believe. There has to be some truth to the affirmation. It has to build on your belief where you are now and be one little level up outside of that. I can teach you how to do that. So, yes, confident people use language to empower themselves. They challenge their inner critic and practice non-judgment. Number 5, just got a couple more. Number 5, confident. I mentioned this earlier. I'm talking about the top 8 things that confident people do differently. I think I said 7 earlier. It's actually 8. Top 8 things confident people do differently. Number 5, which is super duper important. Number 5 is they don't compare themselves to other people. I mean, this should literally be number 1 through 8, because if you can get this, you're more than halfway there. Because that is what creates the angst for everybody, is we're comparing ourselves to some other standard that is outside of ourself. This is not a confidence competition, folks. When we talk about building confidence, self-confidence, it has to come from inside you. It has to. The only standard of excellence is what you have to offer at your best. Not how do you get as good as that person over there. It's how do I maximize my gifts, my talents, my knowledge, my beauty, my health. How do I maximize my potential? That's what true confidence is. There's no comparison needed or necessary. None. I say this all the time. I am in competition with no one. Does that mean that I'm the best thing since sliced bread? Maybe not to someone else. But I feel good about me. I like me. I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what I deserve. I know my shortcomings. I'm learning more about things that I want to improve about myself. No one on this earth can tell me who I am. No one. No one. Because they're not inside me. How could someone else know who you are? They may know who you exhibit yourself to be or say you are, but only you know the essence of you. Only you can define that. No one else can get to that data unless they go in through you. So it's important that you all remember that you are only in competition with yourself. You know, that whole adage, get out of your own way, like that is real. The large majority of us, I always couple myself back in because there's never this absolute place of arrival. Again, the things I talk about are tips, tools, and strategies that have helped me. But I'm telling you, for as long as we have life to live, we always have lessons to learn. Always. So comparing yourself to somebody else is not the way. It's knowing who you are. It's recognizing your value, your worth. It's trusting yourself. That's a whole other Oprah. We'll talk about that later. But when we talk about being confident, it's really you trusting yourself, trusting your judgment, trusting your opinions, trusting your assessments. That's what confidence is. It's self-assurance. Self-assurance. So when other folks come up against you, and I have a whole laundry list of stories and experiences, I just last week, literally just last week, I had someone say to me, I don't like you and I don't even know why. And I just listened. And it was absolutely okay for them to say that and why ever they felt that. And it was absolutely okay. But because I know who I am, I was literally unfazed by it. Like literally unfazed by it. Other people's opinions of you is none of your business. None of your business. When I'll say it again. Other people's opinions of you is none of your business. That's their opinion. And we all know everybody's got opinions. But some of us take on those opinions as truth because we don't know who we are. We haven't established our own internal rubric of our own excellence. We haven't established what we expect of ourselves first. So when we bump up against somebody else that has an opinion or that's made a decision about and defining who we are, it's so easy to just take it on because we don't have anything to really internally compare it to because we haven't set our own standard. So confident people, not only do they not compare themselves to other people, they practice radical self-acceptance. Confident people practice radical self-acceptance. Again, it's your opinion of me is none of my business. But let me add to that. Number 6, of course, opinions can be very fickle. Sometimes opinions can offer insight. Sometimes it is valuable to get feedback and critique from other people so that you can become your best self. I'll tell you, that's something that I've had to learn. That is something that I've had to learn over the years, is how to take in criticism and feedback without being defensive. And so that's number 6. Confident people, they know how to take in feedback and critique without being defensive, without a knee-jerk response to deflect or protect or defend. People who are confident know how to hold space for other people's opinions without it penetrating. Okay? We know how to hold space for other people's opinion, but we measure it against our own internal rubric first before we allow it to penetrate. So that's why when someone bounces up against you with something that you know is not true about you, you can let it in one ear and out the other. But you got to let it in. You can't just be like, nope, that's not true. Nope, that's not true. You have to be willing to let it in and then evaluate it. And then you keep what you need and you discard the rest. You keep what you need and discard the rest. So it's important that we learn how to take in feedback and criticism without responding negatively. It's important to hold space because especially as you grow in confidence, that haterism is a real disease and it is plaguing the nation. Haterade is a real juice, theoretically speaking. And a lot of folks are sipping that Kool-Aid. So it's necessary as a confident person to expect antagonists or people who don't value you. Because what happens is, as you grow in confidence, you become a light that shines just a little bit brighter in a world full of not confident people or insecure people. That light becomes more noticeable to other people. And for some people, it reflects a mirror image back to them that they don't like, because then they notice that they are not as confident. And they are in the business of comparing and then making themselves feel bad. And then it just becomes a downward spiral from there. But as a confident person, you have to learn how to hold space for that entire experience without it rocking your boat or changing your mind if it need not change your mind. Again, if you have places and spaces in your life that you know you are continuing to grow and that you need growth, and maybe it's something that you just learned from somebody else giving you that feedback, take it in. See if it makes sense. See if there's some value to it before you discard the rest. Take it in. Learn how to take feedback and criticism. That requires you to have to learn how to tame your ego. You have to check your ego at the door. Any student who is learning from a master teacher has to be willing to learn constantly. The master teacher is always got to be willing to learn from the student, because there's always something new to learn. There's always something value added to take from someone else's feedback. Even if it's value added as in it helps just reaffirm who you know you are. And again, it could potentially be information that helps you to become greater. So it's important to learn how to tame your ego and practice active listening when giving and receiving feedback, particularly receiving. Active listening. Hold space. Take it in. Make your evaluation and then keep or discard. Now, we're on to number 7. 2 more, folks. I hope you all are getting something out of this. I really do. This topic, I will revisit it time and time and time again, because I know how critical an issue that this is in people's lives. I know it is. I know many of you are not taking on new experiences because you are unsure of yourself. You are shying away from taking risk and trying new things. So I'm here to remind you that confident people take risk. Confident people are willing to try something new. That's number 7. Confident people are willing to try something new. Not because they already know they're going to be perfect at it. They're willing to take the risk. They're willing to face the fear. They're willing to be uncomfortable. I think it's important to note, again, just because you reach some level of confidence doesn't mean you don't feel rocked or insecure at times. Of course it does. But confident folks learn how to be socially uncomfortable. As I just alluded to, holding space for a conversation that doesn't feel good. Or raising your posture to be able to walk in a social environment of which you don't know anybody and you may feel insecure. Confident folks face discomfort. They face fear. They take risk. And they're willing to try something new. Number 8. Number 8, the most important of all. Confident people do numbers 1 through 7. Uh-oh. I think I lost my notes. That's okay. Confident people do numbers 1 through 7. Confident people get clear about who they are. They move differently in the world. They walk differently. They talk differently. Confident people are willing to take feedback and criticism from other people. Confident people are unapologetic for who they are. These are the things that confident people do. Confident people pay attention to how they talk to themselves. They're intentional about talking to other people with assertiveness, with confidence. Confident folks are not defensive. They're not comparing themselves to other people. They are in competition with themselves and themselves alone. Are you? Are you in competition with yourself? Or are you looking to keep up with the Joneses? Do you recognize that you are one of one? That you have unique talents, gifts, qualities, characteristics, and traits that only belong to you? Do you recognize that? I'm going to tell you, it took me a long time. I didn't have anybody to support me, to show me the way. I had to just figure it out. I had to figure it out only after I was tired and frustrated and sad and depressed and anxious and fearful and worried and insecure. I was tired of it. I was tired of it. And that's what prompted me to start making changes. When basketball came into my life, as I alluded to that earlier being one of the key elements that helped me make the shift, I wasn't open to playing basketball. I was afraid. I was self-conscious. I had a negative self-perception that was holding me back from pursuing that, because I'm like, they are going to look at me and they're going to think I'm stupid. They are going to judge me because I don't know how to play, but I'm really tall. I mean, every negative thought that I could think, I thought it. But one day I still took the leap and I started playing. And lo and behold, I took the risk to try something new and discovered a new passion that literally changed my life. opened the door to opportunity after opportunity. I got a college degree within a couple years of playing. Bam, here we go. I mean, a college scholarship within a couple years of playing completely set my life on a totally different trajectory. I wonder how many of you are holding yourself back from opportunities because you don't believe in yourself and your abilities to get it done, to thrive, to survive. I wonder. If this is something you can relate to, I welcome you to drop your story in my comments, to DM me on social media. I would love to support you. This is literally the work that I do with clients, helping people get out of their own way. I didn't have a guide. It took me years. I missed out on dating opportunities. I missed out on job opportunities, social experiences, because I was trapped in the limitations of my own fear, worry, and angst. Yeah. Until one day I wasn't. Because the days before that, I was doing my work. I was facing my fears. I learned to talk to myself differently. I learned to carry myself physically differently. And I started to see results. I started to feel better inside. Not because someone else was telling me, oh, you look great. Oh, you're so pretty. And don't get me wrong. Compliments are nice. Compliments are nice. But when I talk about not being in competition with anybody, that means that the competition piece and other people's opinion. That means that you don't get too elevated by anybody's compliments and too elevated by anybody's criticisms. You don't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. I tell my children this all the time. I just told them this yesterday. You got to just ride the wave. It's nice when people acknowledge you, outside entities affirm you, but that's not what matters most. It's your own internal rubric of your own evaluation of success. Where is the bar for you within you? And are you meeting it? If other people notice, great. If they don't notice, cool. But I'm not going to be riding the wave of, oh, they love me. I'm so great. Oh, I feel so great because they think I'm great. And then the chair is pulled out from underneath. And now they don't like you. And now they don't know why. And now you're feeling bad because they don't like you. And you don't really like you because you don't know what there is to like about you, so you believe it. No, that ain't it. That ain't it. So if this is something you struggle with, if this is an area in your life that you know you need to start to shift, I urge you to be in touch. If you all don't know, again, I'm a transformational life coach. This is the work that I do with clients. I'll leave some links in the bios of these telecasts to let you know how you can schedule a consultation. I do free consultations, 20-minute consultations, free of charge. And basically, it's an opportunity for you to get to know me. I get to know a little bit more about you and what your struggles are. And then we talk about whether or not we are a good fit to help you move beyond those challenges. Yeah, I'm here to help you, but I can't help you if you don't reach out. So I welcome you to reach out. Again, I'll drop the link to my consults in my bio. I do welcome you all to like, share, and subscribe. If this content resonates with you, share it with a friend. Share it on your platforms. Drop me some comments. I love feedback. I want this to be a place and space that is catering to the needs of what you all are experiencing. I know this resonated with some of you. I hope that you will reach out if there's a way that I can support you. I so thank you guys for listening to this show. I'm really grateful for what God is doing through me for you all. And Let's just keep growing. Let's keep growing. Don't let your lack of confidence stand in the way of you becoming your best self. Not anymore. Let today be the last day. Today's the last day. All right, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in. You all stay safe and sane. Wish you all much love, luck, success, and happiness. And above all, be great every day, no matter what.